Someone in the waiting room.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call the Village of Blair's board meeting to order. Let's look for an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion to approve the agenda.
I just
Beck
did.
already did.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't listening.
Second.
Okay,
You're
all in
skipping
favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 3, public appearances and citizen comments on items not listed on this agenda. Items will not be debated or acted upon at this meeting, but will be referred to the proper staff or committee if action is required. And please keep your comments to 3 minutes. I don't think there's anyone here that wants to speak. They're all here for presentations, so. I look for approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. New business, item 8, proclamation honoring Kevin Funseth on his retirement from the New Glarus Utilities after 39 years of service. Okay. Whereas it is the desire of the New Glarus Board of Trustees to recognize Kevin Funseth for 39 years of service to the New Glarus Utilities as an electrical utility journeyman, lineman, and foreman. And whereas Kevin has dedicated his career to ensuring the reliable service of electricity to New Glarus community, contributing to the well-being and progress of residents, business, and community institutions. And whereas Kevin's long career has provided stability and a wealth of knowledge to the New Glarus utilities, playing a vital role in maintaining reliability of the utility infrastructure that residents depend on every day. And whereas over his 39-year career, Kevin has sacrificed many weekends and evenings, often in challenging conditions, to respond to power outages and many emergencies in New Glarus. And whereas Kevin has also served on the WPPI board for many years, contributing his vast knowledge and experience to a journeyman lineman to the greater public power community, and has also attended several trips to Washington, D.C. to advocate for public power with elected representatives. And whereas after 39 years of extraordinary service, Kevin has made the decision to retire, marking the end of an era of unparalleled commitment to the community and his profession. Now, therefore, on behalf of the New Glarus Board of Trustees, I hereby recognize and thank Kevin Funseth for his 39 years of service to the New Glarus Utilities and the New Glarus community. Dated this 7th day of January, 2025. Roger Trutman, Village President. Thank you, Kevin.
Sorry.
Thank you, Roger.
You're welcome, Kevin.
I enjoyed, appreciated, getting, let me rephrase. I guess what I enjoyed the most out of, obviously nobody likes getting out in the middle of the night and the weather. Most everybody in the community is pretty cooperative. People saying thank you when you do turn the lights. So I'm not going to miss getting called out. Getting called off the lake or you're staying. You still call now. And I know my wife, she'll enjoy the more quieter nights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, consideration discussion 11th Avenue engineering contract. Beth, are you speaking to that?
I can. Well, the village is fading to do 11th Avenue. It definitely is deteriorating. The project would be from Railroad Street up to the Candy Cane Park. And the goal would be to design the project this year, bid it out late fall, and then construct it in 2026. It would be a total street and utility reconstruction. So there'd be new curb and gutter, new pavement, new base course, new sanitary sewer, new water main, new storm sewer. The storm sewer on that street is very inadequate, very undersized. So it'll be a great improvement for the village's infrastructure.
And sidewalks, both sides, all the way.
Yep, there'll be a sidewalk, I mean, that, is that, that's the plan, have sidewalk on both sides.
Yeah.
There are a couple challenging spots at intersections.
Yeah.
And we will, look at those in depth and come up with the best solution for it.
So this contract is for the engineering. So we had budgeted a certain amount for 2025 that will get the kind of initial plans together. And then Strand also provides construction management during the construction phase. So this would cover both of those phases, which we budgeted for.
Okay, does anyone from the board have any questions of Pat or for Lauren?
Do you need a motion to approve the 11th Avenue engineering contract? I motion to approve the 11th Avenue engineering contract. Second.
I want to ask one thing, Pat. So you're going to go to Candy Cane, or that ends the 11th, or does it jog up and go, is that 10th goes up, right? Past the park?
Well, 10th is, just north of the park.
Right.
What, at the, intersection of 11th and, I think that's.
5th, I believe, yeah. That's going to be the end.
That would be the end.
Okay.
The street would be constructed just to tie in at each,
Mhm.
from the intersection.
And is there going to be any, like from that water that's going to be running down through Candy Cane Park, is there going to be like a big manhole there or something to take the water? Or?
Well, we definitely will have, that's one of the things we'll be looking at, is what's needed at that intersection. I am assuming we'll have a number of inlets at
Okay.
that intersection to collect the water. We won't have a detention basin or anything
No.
like that.
No.
But there is a swale that comes down from the pipe,
Mhm.
higher up on Candy Cane. So we'll have that directed down to the intersection and get some, inlets to collect the water.
Okay.
Jeff,
Yeah, I just had one quick question, Pat. It's gonna end at Railroad Street, but will it be repaved from Railroad Street to 69? That's really bad in there.
Right now, that is not planned.
Okay.
There is a project not too far down the road that will take care of that section.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Bye, Kevin.
you too.
Okay. Item C, consideration discuss Arbitrage Management Group investment presentation. It's on page 19.
So I'll try to provide an introduction
Okay.
and then I'll hand it over to Dave and Brad who are on Zoom. So Kelsey and I have been meeting with Dave and Brad at Arbitrage Management Group, and I think we foreshadowed this at a previous meeting when we started talking about investing of village funds and how can we continue to improve revenue with our investments. And so this was kind of one of the groups that we've talked to about options. Their niche is specifically with revenue bond reserves. And that is something that the village has and is just sitting there in our normal bank account. And so they look at other options for investing it and getting additional revenue, which can help pay down the debt quicker. So I will turn it over to Dave and Brad, who are going to give you an overview of their services, and then we can kind of answer questions.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Should I share my screen or do you have the document?
You can go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, let me go ahead and hopefully that works okay here.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for having us.
Hold on a second here. Not working for me. I don't think. Let's see if that works. Yeah, darn it. It's not working for me.
I can bring it up. here.
Okay. Okay.
I can share mine, I think.
Okay. Great.
Perfect.
How's that, Dave?
Yep. Perfect. Perfect.
All right.
Well, thank you all for having us. Like Lauren said, well, I'm Dave Goodell, and then my colleague Brad Lukens is in the other screen there. And we're from Arbitrage Management Group. And as Lauren said so eloquently, she really did a great job. We are a relatively niche type firm that focuses on initially bond proceed investments. We do some other things too, but our main focus is on the bond proceeds and the investment of those. If you can see on the screen there, we have several hundred clients across the country with over $2 billion. And we've been around since the early 1990s. And the idea is, like Lauren said, is that we want to set up strategies for our clients. We do set up strategies for our clients to maximize return of the investments, and basically understand what you're going to earn, what you are going to earn over the period that you're investing in. As she said, also is true is that your bond reserve proceeds are sitting in Lake Ridge Bank, and they're in the variable money market. So variable is variable, goes up, goes down. But the idea is with these bonds being, there's another, I think, 15, 16 years on the latest one, that there's time there to earn, using the right strategies to earn more than just leaving it, floating up and down in a variable rate account. What we do is like Lauren said, we reached out to her. We research various revenue bonds around the country, and we believe we provide great value to our clients in terms of what we'll talk about today. And there's really not that much risk involved in this, because the bond indentures and the state statutes really constrain what you are able to do in terms of investing public funds like this. So bond proceeds are handled differently in most cases than general funds. And so we want to talk about that a little bit here right now, and how the value I mentioned, what that looks like. So as she mentioned also, you do have a debt service reserve fund over a couple different bonds, revenue bonds of over $380,000. And it's sitting in that variable rate account. The debt service reserve fund itself, if you're not aware, it's listed down there, but basically it's sort of like a fallback or just in case type fund. If there's ever a time where you're having a problem paying your bondholders their interest and principal every 6 months, that money is there for that. It's very rare that any bond issuers or borrowers use that money, but it is there. It's about a year's or so worth of principal and interest. So if there was ever a chance of non-payment or where you're having a struggle that revenues aren't coming in, you would never tap into the entire amount. You would at most tap into half of it, and more than likely not even close to that. So, but that reserve fund can only be used for that. Can't be used for anything else. It has to sit there until the bond matures and you pay off the bond completely. But most people don't know this, but that money actually can be invested in a variety of different very safe securities, generally government treasuries, government backed agencies, commercial paper, nothing that's really risky like the stock market, cryptocurrency, anything of that nature. So the benefit behind this is any earnings that you get from investing that reserve fund can be used to reduce the bond's principal, which would accelerate the maturity date of that bond, give you able to pay it down earlier, which is great for your tax base, for your citizens. It's sort of like, when you make an extra mortgage payment on your own home, you're going to pay down your mortgage a little bit earlier, and you're going to save interest at the back end by doing that. So in conversations we met with Lauren back in September in person. We came in and met with her in person. And by the way, we love your town. We made a trip over to the brewery right afterwards. We made sure we had time for that. But we've spoken a couple different times since then with both she and Kelsey. going through a variety of different options and what the benefits are. So if you scroll down a little bit, Brad, the next section here talks about the investment policy in general. So the bonds that you have active right now, they were all written by lawyers, Quarles and Brady, for all these bonds specifically. And inside, embedded in the several hundred-page document, is language about what you can invest in. And so you can see the screenshot that we pulled out of one of them, which it's the same on all of them. And you can see the last paragraph. It says time deposits, repurchase agreements, securities issued by federal, state, and local Dutch treasuries, commercial paper, corporate securities, which is actually really good that you're able to invest in those. So those are the type of things that we look at when we research these bond documents, these bond indentures. So we pulled that out, and then we also went a little bit further, and it mentions in here Wisconsin statutes. So if you scroll to the next page, Brad, we pulled out the section which sort of applies here, and there's a lot more in here. We're not going to go through all in hardly any of this, but it does mirror in terms of being able to, if you look at point number 2, securities, that are federal government backed, like I said, treasuries and such. So we did that research, and basically we feel that you can take advantage of what your bond investment policy in the indenture states, as well as the Washington state statute. It's very, if you scroll down a little bit more, it's very, very conservative. That's all we work in. Nothing, like I mentioned, nothing really too sexy, no stocks, nothing like that. It's the sort of like the tortoise and the hare scenario. So, you're going to play you basically play the long game here. And historically, if you have a strategy around investments, it's going to do much better over time than keeping money simply in a variable account, which goes up, which goes down, which goes up, which goes down. And you're not going to know what you're going to earn from year over year. And so that's where we come in, and that's what we do. So just want a quick Federal Reserve update. We put this in here because you probably have seen the last 4 or 5 months, the Federal Reserve has started lowering the Fed funds rate because they believed inflation was coming under check. Well, the reason we put this in here, and you can see in that red box there, that over the next year, it's going to continue to go down, at least projected. I mean, the stories have changed a little bit over the last month or two, but in general, the projection is that they're going to continue to go down. And the reason that we put this in here is that Fed funds rate is closely tied to those variable rates in the money markets, high yield savings, those type of things. Now, I personally have a high yield savings account myself, and I've seen it the last 6 months go down about 0.75%. So it's happening. You can't project exactly what's going to happen, but with the variable rates, you just don't know. So if you go down a little bit further, in terms of New Glarus, your rate has dropped 14% since July, based on what the Fed has done. And again, we don't know exactly. We don't have a crystal ball on what's going to happen in 2025. But it's the idea is that you want to try to lock in what you can now. And you're able to forecast what you're going to earn over time. And like I said, that's the long game. So the strategy that we've presented to Lauren and Kelsey, and what we wanted to speak about briefly here, is that we wanted to maximize the earnings on that debt service reserve fund, and using a very laddered fixed income investments that are allowed by your bond indenture and by the Wisconsin state statutes. The bond yields are still historically high, plus or minus 4% right now, which if you go back 2 or 3 years before inflation hit, they were talking 1 to 2%, and money markets were under 1%, closer to 0. So this is hot. These are historically high, and with the new administration coming in, you don't know what's going to happen exactly, but locking these in now, we're really, really pushing our clients to do that. And the idea also is that you're going to be able to preserve the principal because these are very safe. You're not going to lose money on treasuries necessarily, and you're also going to have access to liquidity. And what I mean by that is using a 1, 2, 3 year approach is that we would recommend taking a third of the debt service reserve fund and putting it in 1, 2, and 3 year securities. So if you look here, based on, I think this is Friday's yields, bond yields, you can see what you would earn on this 2-year duration. When I say 2-year duration, that doesn't include any potential reinvestments of the securities that mature. So let's say a year from now, let's say in January of 2026, that 1/3 of the 383 would mature. And the idea would be to reinvest it in another security that would continue to earn. Same thing with the 2-year as that matures. So the 30,000 is not for the entire 3 years. It's a 2-year weighted type average. But if you continue to reinvest, then that number goes up. So the benefits, this is the last part of this here. The benefits of this, I sort of hit on a bit already. That let's go to the third one. Actually, when you lock in the fixed income investments, like I mentioned before, you can accurately project and budget what you'll earn over the duration. You can't do that with the variable accounts. And the second bullet point, I mentioned already too, that active strategic management historically outperforms these variable rate accounts over time. And then the ladder strategy, another part of it is it helps you protect and diversify the portfolio a little bit, so that if interest rates rise or fall, your part of the portfolio is protected. So if rates rise, then that 1-year treasury note that's getting ready to mature, you can reinvest that at a higher yield. And if rates fall, then 2/3 of the portfolio is protected and locked in. So that's the benefit of that ladder strategy. That's one strategy we use. We use some others, but that's the one that we're proposing right now, at least. And in terms of what we are a relatively small firm, but we've been around, like I said, for over 30 years. And this is what we focus on. Other investment firms can do this, but they don't necessarily have the expertise in the bond area. And I know like banks can also offer securities, but they can't offer advice or strategy. So that's where we come in, and we are your people. We're the people that Lauren and Kelsey would be talking to a couple times a year, or more often if they'd like. And it's not like it's a pretty simple onboarding process, a simple management process, but we keep tabs on the market, and we'll make recommendations. It's your choice on what you want to do. We don't have the ability to purchase these things without securities, without your go ahead every time. So we have to continue to earn your business in something like this. So with that, open the floor for any questions. I know it was a little bit going sort of quick on this.
So I guess I'm a little bit confused. We're talking about money that's for the utilities, not what we just.
No, correct. Utility dollars. And it's literally money that is sitting there that is no use to the utility unless we would not be able to pay our loan. This isn't like cash flow money that we're using month to month. It's literally money that just has to be there.
Yeah, right. For the life of the bond.
Correct.
So if we were to take it out of Lake Ridge, do we pay a penalty? Means it's in there till 2040 or 41?
It's not in Lake Ridge until there. It just has to be there for the bond. Does that make sense?
No.
The bond doesn't dictate where we keep the money.
It just has to be in a financial institution.
Exactly. Yeah, we just have to have that money. Dave, did I explain that correctly?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to that. When you issued these bonds, you all were required to borrow a little bit more than you actually needed for the projects. And that little bit more is that debt service reserve fund. And it's a safety net or kind of an insurance policy to protect your bondholders in the event that you were to fall short on a bond payment. You could use that money to pay your bondholders while you restructure things internally to get back on track. But it's costing you money, and we specialize in investing that money within the constraints of the bond indenture to recapture what it's costing you. Bond counsel puts it in there that you can invest it The underwriters, they're the bankers, they raise the money, but they don't invest. The banks typically like to just keep it in their money market because they get to loan that money out in multiples. And financial advisors who help you with it, they're aware of it, but they typically don't work for the entity as a financial advisor and do investments for them. So and a lot of times this money gets kind of fallen through the cracks.
So how do you guys get paid? Is your fee, is it a percentage of the earnings or what does that look like?
Yeah, we make a commission on the transaction. You all are probably more familiar with CDs, so I'll kind of explain that route. If you get a list of CDs from Lake Ridge or any bank, there's an embedded commission that's in that, and whoever facilitates that transaction for you receives the commission on it. And so it's no different in our case. There's a commission that would be embedded in whatever security that we would purchase. And then that's how we get paid. So yields and earnings that Dave already went through, that's all net to you. And then if we were to have the opportunity to do these investments for you, we would get paid a commission that's already embedded in there.
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah. You would never, there's no billing, there's no invoicing. There's nothing that comes to us out of pocket from you all at all. And like you said, it's sort of like if you went to a bank and bought the CD from them directly, they would have a similar commission in there embedded. You wouldn't pay them, you just get the CD.
So a 1 year treasury note where we're giving you $383,000, we're making $5,000 in a year. Is that
$5,000 on that 1 year treasury, right?
Okay.
But it's not 383,000. It's a third.
That's right.
Oh, it's a third of it. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
The 383 is the total investment.
Okay. Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
And that's what's made sense for a number of months right now. The longer we've been in this business, I get tired of saying, this is such a unique market, because it's all very unique. Everything's a little bit different. But, lately we've had a very flat yield curve. And so we're capitalizing on two components. The first is, since the short-term rates are still artificially propped up a little bit from the Fed, and they haven't been pushed down, we're capitalizing on that higher yield on the shorter term bond. But then also it's relatively flat. So we're locking in that higher rate for a 2 year and then a 3 year time period, because the writing seems to be on the wall that rates, or at least shorter term rates, will be declining. And so we wanted to lock in those rates rather than you sitting in a fluctuating rate environment where you couldn't forecast your earnings.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, Peggy, go ahead.
I have two questions. How do you choose your bonds? Are you just after the A ratings, or do you select based on performance?
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of that stuff. Performance is more of a term that you would get like in stocks or funds, like a mutual fund or an index portfolio. The performance of a U.S. Treasury bond or U.S. government agency bond is directly tied to the U.S. government in paying its bonds. And so far, knock on wood, we still have an American flag flying over the Capitol, and we are paying our debt, and there's really no concern with that. So performance-wise, you're going to buy a security at whatever today's yield is on the security, and price and yield of the bond. Tomorrow it'll fluctuate a little bit differently, up or down. And they'll pay interest every 6 months. It's that flat amount. And then when it matures, you get all of your principal back. So that's the performance. It's a flat line. You know what you're going to get. This is all very safe stuff. You don't have to worry about, the issuer not paying or credit rating. These are all U.S. government bonds, or if they're commercial paper or corporate, it's the top rating. And then how do we select the securities? There are a number of factors. We look at the yield curve. We look at, kind of short, middle, and a little bit longer term bonds. of all the different types of securities that you have the ability to invest in, which are all very safe again. Some of them will stand out. It's literally like shopping. It's like going down in the grocery store and you can pick out a better deal, and it stands out when you know what you're looking for. And that could be a higher yield. A lot of times we don't shop for the coupon because you're not necessarily looking for cash flow. You're looking for earnings. And then we look at the price compared to the yield of all the various securities that are available, and we pick from a number of different options.
And when he says pick, it's a recommendation. So we present the recommendation to, let's say, to Lauren, and say this is what we suggest, and it's up to her or you all to make that final determination before we go forward with that. So we not only do we present the security, but we go behind the why behind it at that point in time, and the strategy behind it. So it's definitely a partnership when it comes to that. There are some entities out there that can have discretion and buy and sell whenever. Some institutions or companies allow them to do that, but that's not us. We partner with you all, and we say, hey, this is what we think is the best thing, and this is why. So we're not doing this in the vacuum.
Your bond choices are normally all A-rated, or it fluctuates?
Normally AAA rated.
Right.
AAA. Okay. The other question I had was what happens if you need to call it back, a bond or some of it?
Yeah. So that's part of the reason why we have where we create a ladder, like you're looking at there, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. And now if you needed to access this money, let's back up just a little bit. This is enough. This $383,000 is roughly enough money to pay a full year's worth of principal and interest payments. Number one, you never have to make a full principal and interest payment on one day. You make a interest payment every 6 months, and then you pay one principal payment every 12 months. So you'll have a portion of this money that is due at any given time. And assuming you have zero revenue and you need to access that, then you could liquidate the securities. I'm sure that's not something that would happen. It has happened a couple of times, not much at all, where we've needed to liquidate a portion or a small amount that is missing. So maybe $12,000 or something like that. And we can liquidate that, have that in the account as quickly as the same day.
Yeah, and
thank you.
Yeah, and if I can add a little bit to that, it's based if you were to have to do that, it's based off of the price of those bonds at that particular time. Bond prices don't really fluctuate that much off of par, which is the amount that you purchase them for, or the amount that it's valued at. The difference, so you might actually make out a little bit if you were to sell when the bond prices are a little higher. But there could be a little loss there as well, depending. The difference, like with CDs per se, is that if you had a CD, there are penalties to liquidate early, and those are you're going to get hit with a certain charge if you need that money in a CD. So with the bonds, they end up very close to par in general. Sometimes a little bit higher or lower, but that's what you would see. So,
is there a commission on each and every transaction?
Usually so. Well, I mean, we're not looking to do a whole lot. This isn't a day trading kind of a relationship.
It's basically if we did this 1, 2, and 3 year strategy, it would be the first year. Okay, you buy 3 securities, so you have 3 transactions, and then subsequent years, again, the strategy could change, but subsequent years you just had 1 transaction a year. In this scenario, unless the market dictates something else, but right now it's 3 transactions and then 1 per year, which is not much.
And then the earnings from this, it can only be used to reduce the principal, or can it be used for other things?
You're in a sort of a unique situation where you have a paying agent relationship versus a trustee relationship. So it's a little bit looser in that regard. Number one, it's not advisable to have all this money commingled with other city money. So it should be pulled apart and held segregated from that. Interest earnings are intended, best practice, intended to be used to help offset a bond payment, which means whatever account that money, that bond payment money would come from, a lot of times a general fund, there'd be more in that account, which could be used for anything. Given the paying agent relationship that you guys have, it's a little bit more relaxed on that, and the interest earnings could compile in the account, and then you would likely be able to just pull it out and use it for other things.
You have plans to do that?
We just want to pay stuff down from there. Lauren and I looked at this as really an opportunity to take money. We started with investing in the CDs, which is very simple, safe investment, which is a good first step. But this seems like a very natural progression because we're literally taking a pot of money that we can do nothing else with. We don't need it necessarily, knock on wood, we'll never need it. And it just seems like a really good introduction into investing. And I feel as though we have to start diversifying a little bit. We can't do all CDs all the time. The market was great for that when we made that decision, but it's not always going to be that way.
And right now, this is just like exploratory, or you're planning on voting, or what do you?
It's up to the board. So if you feel very passionate and want to move forward with this, the next step would be we do need to revise our investment policy because it currently says we can only invest in CDs. So we will need to bring that back and revise that. So that could be a natural next step if the board is interested in pursuing this. I will add that next meeting, we will have Ellers coming to talk about their investment services. That's going to be probably a different conversation. That's going to be more looking at our funds that we use on a day-to-day basis. So that's going to be a little bit more complicated and probably a longer discussion. So if you'd want to move forward with this and then kind of use Ellers as like a more longer term discussion, that would make sense. So yeah, if the board wanted to say, yes, we're interested in this, let's look at revising our investment policy and moving forward with ANG, that's an option, or we could continue discussing options.
I think at the very minimum, Lauren and I just want the board to start thinking about how we can, make our money work for us and diversify our portfolio, because right now it's not diversified at all.
Well, if it's the only option for this money, why would we not?
Yeah, I mean, I'll clarify that, Dave and Brad, although they're wonderful, are not the only option out there, but they are the option we've been, yes.
Bonds are the
Yes,
only
yes,
option.
yes, exactly, yes.
And
yep,
their bonds would pay about 4% yield,
Right.
close somewhere near 4.
Probably depends how fast we do it too.
Right. Yeah, we just thought that this was money sitting there and we can't do anything else with it. So it seems like a really great opportunity. And I will add too, the last time we really had an in-depth investment conversation, Lauren and I made it very clear that while we're well-versed in village finances, we are not investment professionals. And we did not feel comfortable giving investment advice to the board, which I think was maybe part of that desire at the last conversation. So this not only would take money we don't necessarily need and do something with it, but it also provides professionals that are very good at this and do it every day, giving us solid advice.
That we can blame if it goes wrong?
Yes, no, I'm just
Right.
kidding. Have you guys?
I'll throw in I don't want to interrupt anybody.
No, go ahead.
I'll throw in a couple of things with that. You're right. There are other folks that do investments, obviously. There are very few around the country, very few, that specialize in the investment of bond proceeds. And so there are laws associated with the investment of bond proceeds. And if you look to issue new bonds down the road, our value would probably be multiplied, because we can help you with permitted investment language in the bond indenture, maturity restriction language, and then create what's called an arbitrage strategy. You're not getting the full gamut, I guess, of our expertise, because the bond issue is so small. And that means that you guys have what's called a small issuers exemption. And that means that there are arbitrage laws of not earning too much money and all this stuff that you're exempted from. Had this been over a $5 million borrowing or a combined over $5 million in a year, you would be subject to those arbitrage laws, and we would have greater conversation around structuring an investment strategy to navigate you through the laws of arbitrage. So while your personal financial advisor or your neighbor down the street who does retirement accounts and that kind of thing, while they can buy general fund money for the city, they cannot work with bond proceeds, whether you're a small issuer or a larger issuer based on that $5 million threshold, because they have to be a municipal advisor. So just want to throw that out there that this is a very specialized little niche type of money. The other thing is in your investment policy, I don't know how much you have to, it's up to you, how much you have to amend, because this under purpose in the first paragraph, I don't know if you have a copy of it, I can throw it up on my screen. Would that be better?
Yes, please.
All right. I can't get this pop-up thing to go away when I highlight, but you get the gist. Maybe I'll try to make it bigger. There. So under purpose here, the following fund types are covered by this investment policy. It's your general fund. It's really anything that is derived from your own income. General debt service, that's money to pay for the bonds, not money that is derived from the issuance of the bonds. Library, wastewater, utility, stormwater. This policy will include any new funds created unless specifically exempted. We would argue the fact that this money is already specifically exempted because it's not, it has its own investment policy, and that's what we had already gone over as far as Wisconsin state statutes and other types of securities beyond just being locked into CDs. But, the one thing that you might add is there is a section of I think it's professional, it's Appendix B here, list of authorized public depositories, financial institutions, and broker dealers. You could add our firm to that.
I had a question for Lauren and Kelsey. And thank you for your time and explaining all this to us. I realize it's not a ton of money, but it's new for us, so it's interesting to hear kind of the whole process. Have you guys done any due diligence around talking to any other municipalities that have worked with AMG before?
They're new to Wisconsin, from what I understand, Brad and Dave.
Well, we have a number of clients in the state, but honestly, it has not been a large state of focus since really like 2018. So we've managed those clients. Some have paid off their bonds and they're no longer. But we have a few hundred clients that are just like you guys around the country, a lot of which are municipalities that are under the same things. We probably have, I don't know, 65 or 70 clients in the Midwest that are municipalities, water districts, colleges, power authorities, all who have issued bonds that we manage their reserve funds. So we've got lots of references if anyone wants to.
I say I could reach out to some Midwest.
And I definitely don't want to give you more work by any means, but because this is new for us, because you know, not that it means anything that I've never heard of you guys, but you're not working in Wisconsin, so that's something. Like maybe one or two other municipalities that are comparable to our size or our amount of money would be great to connect with. Just to...
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
I'll give
basically,
you 5 for each one of you if you like.
I think 2 is probably good.
we don't need more stuff to do. So basically, what we would do right now, moving forward, would be to kind of rewrite how we look at investing. That would be our next step.
Well, it sounds like maybe we don't need to, at least in terms of what Brad was thinking, that maybe that this is kind of its own
Well, niche.
niche outside of our investment policy. And that the bond paperwork and state statutes kind of already dictate what you can and can't do with that. So, I mean, I think if the board felt comfortable and wanted to move forward with this, I think we could probably do it without amending the investment policy.
I do think the investment policy needs to be revisited. I mean, I think especially, you know, Laura mentioned maybe Beller's coming into the next meeting. They're gonna be talking about stuff that would require this to be amended. So, I think it's something to keep on your radar.
So if you'd like, I can check references and then we could circle back to the next meeting and make the final decision.
That's what I'd like to do.
Would you all be comfortable making a motion as long as the references checked out? And that would enable you to invest before the next meeting if they checked out?
Is time of the essence as far as like changing.
Is there a reason why we need to do that?
The rates are dropping.
Yeah, that's what I meant, the rates, yeah.
Okay.
I would only say that because interest rates have kind of been declining over the last 2 months. And we're looking at locking in rates. So, I mean, who knows where it's going to go? I don't want to put fear in you, but you know, it's kind of been declining a little bit. And if the board is open to having this money invested and the references are, you know, a priority, maybe you can still work that out as long as the
Yeah, I think we can make that motion. I mean, I'm comfortable with it. It's just-
How do you want this to go?
Yeah, what do you want it to be?
Motion to move forward with the arbitrage management group investing after
Let's say contingent on
a
satisfactory.
acceptable
Yeah.
check, reference check.
Kidding.
That you will.
Yes.
Motion to move forward with arbitrage management group's proposal pending really good reviews.
And putting really good in the record.
Good.
Second.
Reference check, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We'll be in touch, Lauren. Thank you so much.
That's good.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks for researching.
Well, should we continue on even though Jesse's?
Yeah.
Okay, consideration discussion, Community Foundation Southwest Wisconsin Endowment Presentation. That's on page 22.
All right. So, as you all know, we've been talking about taking over the cemetery. And in doing so, I've been talking with CFSW about creating an endowment. And we thought it'd be a good idea to have them come and just talk a little bit about the endowment and what that looks like and put a face to a name and all of that. So I'll hand it over to you guys and.
Wyatt Jackson, I'm the president and CEO for the Community Foundation.
Lynn Gephardt, I'm Director of Donor Service. A lot of you probably know me, I've been with the Where's Fund for almost 23 years now. So.
Jeff, do you want me to touch base on how the fund could work? Or
That would be great. Just a quick overview.
Yeah. So the idea behind holding a fund at CFSW would be to create a perpetual fund to basically help with maintenance operations or any needs that arise with the property. So the fund agreement, yes, I think you have one in your packet.
Yep.
So these types of funds can get a little trickier because of the IRS rulings about someone being able to double dip, meaning that you are making a gift to a cemetery plot, which then you're going to be buried in, and you're going to get a tax write-off in your lifetime, but you're also going to have the benefit of someone taking care of it. So there is a little bit of language that's added on how the fund can be utilized. So projects have to go for educational benefit of the general public, promoting appreciation of community history, maintaining, repairing, and restoring monuments, headstones, grave markers, historic and architectural significance to the community. 2, combating community deterioration, or preserving, beautifying, and maintaining abandoned or deteriorating graves, deceased persons, and cemeteries. And then the third one is the one that's the catch-all for you guys, would be lessening the burdens of
Page 33.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's really fine tricks. It's hard to cram it all. But yeah, so the idea behind it would be you would have CFSW maintain and manage those funds. Annually, you would be provided with a spending policy, or think of it like the interest earnings off of those that can be requested over to help you guys to make sure that you're doing duty. You just share reports back and forth showing what you're requesting the funds for, how they're going to be used, or how they were used. A lot of it sometimes depends on the project. If it's more costly, you need to cash up front. That's fine. You can do follow-up reporting into CFSW. If you wait for reimbursement, and send it as soon as it's wrapped up. Other big questions that linger behind what a fund can look like or how you can utilize it. It is at the request of the village board. So you guys would be essentially serving as the donors to that fund, establishing it and setting it up. It would require your minutes to draw those over. So you'd have to pass those every time you wanted to pull money off of it.
Do you have other cemeteries locally that, are there municipalities that are?
So this is one, it took a few years for us to develop how we could actually maintain. Rui is the other one that we've been working with in Rui. It's called Carmel Cemetery. It's a very tiny group. The Cemetery Association has about 3 members left. So they were in the process of trying to figure out what was next for them. So we became the step for them.
And is it 4% that's paid out each year?
Yeah, so it's a very, it changes between 4 and 6%. Say 4 because that's the lowest it can go. If we see times get a little leaner, so maybe the market has taken a bit of a beating, we always pay attention to a lot of our community services organizations. We'll up that percentage because we know there's going to be organizations that need it and require more. So it'll range between 4 and 6% each year.
And community members contribute to this fund?
Yes.
Okay.
So it depends on which way you go. So if the Cemetery Association does maintain any authority to it, you have to go with the Field of Interest Fund. I think Laura and I figured that one out. You would be on the designated fund, which would be through the board, village board. Since it's designated, you can commingle both assets coming from the village and assets from individuals. So if they want to do estate plans, or if they had R&Ds that they wanted to use to be able to support the cemetery, all of that can be arranged for the space. And then you've also got Mike and Linda's expertise. So if individuals have questions about how to leave the cemetery in their will, or how to set up a annual contribution for reduced stock gifts, they can work with us in their charge to get those.
Do you guys advertise for that? Like, that sounds weird, but do you? I think, I doubt that the general public will know that they can do this, and I think that maybe some people would. So does your organization have a way of pushing this information out to the public?
We can. So it's a piece that we can brand for you guys as the village that talks about, if you want to leave a legacy for the cemetery. That window.
We have a great marketing person.
Yeah.
And so we can do anything.
Right. And we can do a
Any
legacy.
pieces or village newsletter or anything.
Just to live on the website, we could just put legacy language on the website. Just live in.
Yeah, great.
And however you wanted it, we started putting our minds into a lot of pieces. If you saw New Glarus Community Funds, local be here this year for the EIE. We implemented QR codes for the first time, which has been.
It seems as though there's a lot of passionate people about the cemetery, especially when this transition was going on. So I think that would be a really natural progression to offer this as an option to make sure that it's supported for generations.
And I was actually in a meeting at 9:00 this morning with Historical Village. They have an endowment fund with the foundation too. And that actually someone brought up the cemetery. Really great. It's going to be a community cemetery. Oh, I'm going to come back tonight. Oh yeah, you're talking cemetery. I didn't do it, but they were really glad that it's going to be a community cemetery, not just a church cemetery.
And you guys have received reports on that monthly, quarterly. annually, however you want to look at them.
And you can go on your, you have lines of it.
Yeah, I'm somewhat familiar with them because of the library. I see
Oh,
them everywhere.
Just so you can see how gifts are being made, what transactions were done, if there are online gifts coming in. People are doing memorials, so you see that all the time as well. Estate plans and stuff, we help donors set those up. Sometimes they may come to you as the village and say, hey, who can I talk to? Other times it's a really personal, very intimate conversation. Sometimes it's very anonymous, so they may just reach out to us.
You will get people that put memorials to the cemetery. You will be able to do that.
Do you send out the tax information then for that and the donor receipts? So we don't have to do any of that part? I'm just gonna ask.
That's a good question.
Well, it's all development questions, that's why.
If you have the funds to see if the city doesn't ask you to help set up any marketing requests or anything like that, we just
Okay.
ask for a little bit of time.
Do that.
So it takes us about 2 weeks to turn around those materials to go back.
Mhm.
We are a small team. There's only 13 of us stretched across 9 counties. So, having a little patience with marketing requests is appreciated.
Thankfully, the cemetery people have all the time in the world.
Did you say cemetery association?
If they.
We're not doing that though.
Right,
Yeah.
we're just,
We're
Yeah.
gonna be, it'll just be the village of New Glory.
Yep.
correct.
So I think that one might be, the one within the packet might be the field of interest one.
Oh, did I include the wrong one? Yeah,
Well, that.
correct. Yeah, we're doing the designated.
Good catch, Larry.
Yeah, you're on top of it, Larry. Even if you're on your community fund, that's how you know.
No.
So what do you need from us today?
Not a whole lot, I guess, because I think you already know we're moving in this direction, but I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of how this would work. The next step, obviously, will be taking ownership of the cemetery, and then taking that loan out to put into the endowment. So we'll have another meeting where we're talking about this again, but I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions about how this would work and just kind of get an overview of CFSW.
And ownership is set for January 31st.
We do not have a closing date set.
Oh, you
I'm
don't?
still waiting on a legal description. So the library is closing on January 31st.
I thought both were.
That would be ideal to have them all done on the same day, but it's not scheduled yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually need the village board to pass a resolution to accept that. So if things align, I'd like to have that at the next meeting.
Okay.
But I just need to get the legal description done.
So 31st is the township and the church.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, a lot of land deals going on.
Good shape.
Okay.
Well, this sounds like a great option. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
And one piece I did think about, off my head today, was saying currently located at, was like the 701, 735, in case you've ever, if you make the cemetery larger or move a piece of it,
Oh,
you may say currently located at, so that way it geographically changes or modifies itself.
yep. And we will also be taking over a tiny cemetery on Highway 39 as well. So we'll have to make sure that's included.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Also trying to find the call.
Yeah. It's that time of year.
So you don't want to need anything?
I don't think so,
Okay.
unless the board wants to, but.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Item E, consideration, discussion, presentation on the Blair's Fire Department fire truck purchase.
Mr. Hendricks, I can make the point.
Yeah, feel free to pull up a chair if you want.
Here, you can have this.
No, I'm sorry, I was. Oh.
We got an extra.
I'll be. Thank you.
Tech savvy down there.
You can kind of see. Okay. So Jesse asked me to come and give you the same presentation that he gave a month ago, I guess it is at this point. Just kind of showing an overview of the truck that fire department and the district board are looking at buying. So what we're looking to replace is MG3 and the current, just a little overview of what the current truck is. It's a 2002 pumper tender. It was built by Custom Fire, the Wisconsin company. It carries 2,500 gallons of water and pretty much acts as our backup engine. And it also carries our second set of extrication tools for traffic accidents. It's also primarily as our second due piece of apparatus for pretty much everything, but it's still a really important piece. And it's also the truck that we tend to send on mutual aid fires or mutual aid calls, MAVIS, which is a mutual aid system, which I can explain to you, but could take a while. This is where we go. This is the truck. A few things that we wanted to change with this truck compared to the old one. We wanted to get away from an enclosed pump panel, which is basically where the guy who's setting on the water to the hoses is standing in the truck. We wanted to get him outside because we're starting to utilize our operators more on the fire ground. And current situation, they're kind of tied to the truck because they're actually in it. And we're also going to add extra ladders because a lot of times, if this truck is acting as our first due, if our engine 2 is out of service, it could be the only piece of apparatus we get up in driveway, and it would have more ladders on it to help us fight fires and make things safer. And also we wanted to create more storage if possible and add dump chutes on the side of the trucks. What those are, that's for when we dump our water into our folding tanks, the big tanks we use out in the rural areas. This is the list of the manufacturers that we use or that we had bid the truck. Pierce Manufacturing, Marion Body Works, Custom Fire Apparatus. Those three are all Wisconsin companies. And the fourth one, Spencer, they are a company out of Southern Michigan. And this is a kind of a breakdown of what we got back for pricing. And we had to remove Pierce from consideration because they just totally missed the boat on bidding the truck. Actually, they had the truck spec so tall that it wouldn't even fit in our station. So we kind of had to kick them to the curb. So you'll notice the prices are right in the 1.39 to a little lower. The Spencer price, that is actually, their price would end up being more in line with the other two as well, because they actually missed a fair amount of stuff in their spec that we would have to add. So all three of these trucks would have been in that same kind of ballpark. Any questions on this so far?
Why is it such a difference in build time between Marion and the other ones?
Good question. So that was another big factor in kind of deciding which truck we want to go with. The Marion, they're kind of a little bit bigger company, and they tend to get more fire trucks kind of signed on to build. And Pierce is kind of the same way. Pierce's build time was 4 to 4.5 years. And
so they're just so busy. That's
they're just so busy they can't keep up.
Gotcha.
The other ones are little smaller companies who they do a great job, and they have a better build time just because they don't take on as many trucks as the other companies do. They kind of keep it reasonable. And that was definitely a big factor because this current truck we have is going to be 25 years old in 2 years. And it's already kind of nickel and diming us in maintenance. And there's no way we could even wait 3.5 years with the Marion truck. And we definitely can't wait 4.5 years with a Pierce truck. So.
I think it's important to note also though that there's a group of firefighters, it's like 5 or 6 of them that kind of formed a board to determine what you wanted on your new truck.
Yep.
Which I think is a pretty good idea.
Yeah, it was Yeah, about 5 or 6 of us that kind of decided to set up our own specs, sent them out, and then,
Have half of the companies not reply correctly. That's cool.
yeah, so that, yeah. They didn't want the sales too bad, I guess. Any questions with that?
And what do you do with the current number 3 engine number 3?
What do we do?
What do you do with the current truck when you get the new one?
We will probably most likely end up selling it.
Okay.
And we actually have some interest from some local departments already in it. So actually, one of the Monroe Fire Departments is interested in buying it.
Oh.
So they said, we'll see once the time comes. But
Would that help offset the cost?
it would, but it wouldn't be a whole lot. Because a truck that's 25 years old, we'd be lucky if we could maybe make 25,000 off of it. It's just, that's how much they depreciate over that amount of time.
It's better than giving it away.
It
Right.
is.
But I just mean that money will go back towards this new truck or paying off this new truck, or where is that money?
I guess that would be up to the district board, so it'd not be a question for myself. I guess that'd be a question for this.
I was thinking we have a party.
So this is just, so basically what we've decided is we want the custom fire truck. And this is some of the reasons why. Dimensions of the truck, it's only the bid or the spec that they gave us, the truck is only 10 foot, 6 inches tall, which that is really big factor in us dealing with some of our driveways in the area. They're just not well maintained, and this will help keep from damaging our trucks. So a little shorter if we had to get it down a driveway. The custom fire one is a stainless steel body instead of aluminum, which all the other 3 trucks that were spec were aluminum bodies. So it'll be stronger, a little more durable too. So it shouldn't cause us extra headaches.
And aluminum tends to corrode.
Correct, yes. Better clearance, which we kind of talked about already. So this truck will have a tank rack for the folding tank and a ladder rack as well on the sides. And I'll show you a drawing once we get to that and kind of explain it to you if you want me to. This one will have a better tail swing than the other trucks by about 7 inches, which that's kind of a big deal when you're talking a 40-foot truck. You don't want to swing it into parked cars, so try not to. And also we have a lower rear intake. So what that means is basically if we're drafting, like pulling the water out of those tanks that we dump the water out into, with the lower intake, that'll help us get more gallons per minute. So it doesn't have to kind of do a loop-de-loop or whatever. And another big factor here, because we basically broke it down, decided we want either the custom fire truck or the Spencer truck. And one of the big reasons we also went with custom is the salesman actually came and met with us multiple times. Spencer company, they just want to do online stuff, which is fine, but it's not the same, especially when you're talking this type of money. And also Custom is a Wisconsin company. We try to keep our trucks in state when we can.
Yeah, it's nice if something doesn't go right. You have a name or someone that you know you can contact that you're dealing with to be like, hey, this isn't right.
Right. And we kind of have a relationship with Custom already. I mean, it's been quite a few years since we bought one of their trucks, but we have maintained a relationship over the years with them too. So it's not like this is a company that we know nothing about.
So like if you get this truck and something doesn't work on it, I'm assuming there's some kind of warranty or something that they will fix it.
Yeah, to a point.
Yeah, right.
And it also depends on what part of the truck.
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot of varying warranties on a truck like this. But also Custom is talking actually with our guy who currently does our maintenance, Siren Services, about making him a guy who can do all of the warranty work for them. So that'll actually
certified.
Yeah, that'll help quite a bit as well. Then we don't have to take it all the way up to Osceola, which is like 4 hours north of here. So
yeah.
So you have to usually take the truck somewhere else for maintenance rather than they come here and do maintenance?
We have pretty much all of our maintenance is done in-house.
Okay.
Yep. The only time we have to take a truck somewhere is when it's something major. That they like really have to take it apart and
Equipment.
tilt the cab, something like that.
Like an engine.
Yeah, kind of like we just had happen with one of our trucks, so. And,
Kevin, I have two questions for you.
okay,
Number one, when you're looking at the purchase of this truck, how does your preferred accessories compare with the essential accessories? Like, for example, are you getting more of the preferred, or is it basically your essentials?
when we spec a truck, it's pretty much all essentials. We don't really put a whole lot of extra fancy stuff into our rigs. We never really have.
Okay. And the other question I had is, how does this truck compare locally? Like, how will this truck look in comparison to the services other fire trucks and communities can provide? Will you be asked to come out more or less? I mean, just in terms of, I guess I just want to know, is this truck going to be, the cutting edge? You'll be in demand more?
I wouldn't say it's gonna be in demand more. It's pretty much gonna be what we currently have, only just updated. There's really nothing extra on this other than some extra ladders. And that's about it.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
You didn't bring a miniature fire truck to show us?
I did not.
Well, denied.
I'm out.
So I can.
What color is it gonna be?
I was gonna just change the rest. So this is the top joke, Larry. This is the top view of what the cab would look like. So the officer, driver, and then 3 firefighters. This would be the driver's side. So this area right here, this is a fold down rack for the holding tank, which we throw on the ground. On the officer side, this is where the extra ladders will be stored up above. And then we also have ladders that are stored in the back end of the truck, as well as sledding. And this will be the pump panel, and that'll be all covered with a door to keep debris and salt and everything off of that as well.
This is electronic, right? Like is it like where you can push a button versus, or can you explain that more? Sorry.
For the pump.
Yeah, the panel, yeah.
Yeah,
One of the board members trying to explain it and
We
he was on.
try not
Yeah.
to do electronics.
Yeah, I understand that.
We try to
That's
keep
good.
it as manual as
Okay,
possible.
great.
Obviously, there are some of the larger discharges where the NFPA, which
Mhm.
oversees us,
Mhm.
says you have to have an electric valve just to keep from
Right,
basically opening it too fast.
right.
And creating a water hammer and creating a public works nightmare.
Yeah. Good. Mhm.
So the ladder you slide in the back, is it gravity that holds them?
There's usually like a latch that goes across or a strap that holds them in. So they
But
slide
you
in
can-
on rails. And
Then you just pull them off,
You
right?
pull them right out.
Okay.
Pull them straight off the back.
Okay.
Don't.
Any questions?
Is this, are we borrowing for this? Is this
Yes.
budgeted?
Yes.
We are borrowing
Like
for
for the
it.
whole amount? Or?
No, only our portion,
Part of it, which I believe is around five.
and it's budgeted in 2027,
Mhm.
which I believe is when we talked about it would be due.
Right.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more.
So I'm just curious, what's the diameter of the tires?
That's good.
Bigger than-
You know,
Larry wants to come to the firehouse.
some tires go
What
up,
about that?
tires go up to 18 or 19 inch now. I'm assuming these are in the 20s.
They're the same truck. Tires you would-
22.5s and 24s.
22 and 24?
Yeah.
Roger's doing that look.
That's a good answer, Roger.
Roger's done.
Come down to the hard.
But I think they're a better, bigger, wider tire than what.
The front tires are the big flow ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
If my cat gets stuck in a tree, well, listen, I'm just kidding.
There's so many matters.
I'm right.
So many
So many
letters.
ladders now.
I have actually been to cabinetry calls, so. it isn't a thing.
That's awesome.
Noted.
We don't need any village board action. I just wanted, and Jesse wanted you to kind of hear what was going on, and this is going down tonight, so. Cool. Appreciate Kevin for coming in.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, Brad cornered me yesterday about. Who's that guy? Brad did. Oh, are you gonna have the money? I said, well, of course we're gonna have the money.
Field?
Yeah.
Tell them no.
Watch his
That'll
head
make it-
explode.
That'll make it more fun. Tell them to actually put that card system in.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
You bet.
Consideration discussion of 2025 goals. Ladies?
Yes. Page 35. So you might recall last year we had goals. I've updated them and added some new initiatives for 2025. I won't go through each one, but this is kind of reflecting as staff have been discussing what are some of the things that we'd like to focus on in 2025. I kind of organized them into the main kind of sections. I also wanted to start kind of doing some tracking of progress towards goals. So I developed some KPIs, which is key performance indicator, to kind of track some of that. We're off or near target on all of them, which I think is, we're setting goals for, better in the future. So I think they're good targets to work towards. And I wanted to bring this to the board because I think it's good to talk about if you have your own initiatives that you would like staff to work on in this next year. I'd like to, have those conversations and make sure that it's in our work plan for the year. And you don't have to make that decision tonight, but it's just something if you have a bigger thing that you want staff to work on this year, I'd like to have that discussion at a board level and include it in the goals so that we're all on the same page as to what staff is spending time on. Other than the day-to-day stuff.
What's the revolving loan fund?
Yeah, so that is a fund that's very underutilized, and it is funded with TID4 funds. And it is a loan that a business can get to get some gap financing. The last business that utilized it was Town Quince. We have only had, I think, like one or two in the last.
We've had two, so it's Common Quince and they're paid off. And then we are still collecting on 135th Ave, which is the Bird brick property up at the corner. Fifth Ave there, the bank.
The old
Where
bank.
Alpine is.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
So.
the Alpine,
So I'd really
Yes,
like
but
to.
yes, that's the business in there,
but
but
the owners.
Melissa and Don Berg own it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd really like to look at how we reinvigorate that program or look at, for example, Green County Development Corporation runs their own revolving loan fund and they're actually pretty successful in getting money out to businesses. So could we partner with them and have them kind of run our money for us? Because they're really the front line with small businesses anyway. And that takes administrative burden off us. They're happy to, help and they could, prioritize New Glarus businesses with our money too. So those are, some of the ideas that are swirling in my mind of how we make good use of this money that we have just sitting there right now.
Do businesses know about,
Yes.
hey, do businesses know about this money?
To be honest with you, this is the first I've really heard it.
The chamber, at least for the last 5 or 6 years, has pushed it out once or twice a year to businesses, talked about it at live meetings, sent out communications through newsletters, nobody ever.
Same
Like,
thing.
It's not a very,
Facade plan's a little better.
yeah, it's not a very easy program to take advantage of. There's kind of a lot of hoops to go through. You gotta work with a bank, you have to have a gap that you have to show. Facade improvement grant is a lot easier to just apply for and get funds for. So I think looking at what do businesses need, maybe tailoring that better.
I like the idea of having the county
Yeah.
handle it.
Where does the money for the facade improvement grant come from?
From the TID4 downtown.
Okay.
If this is hard for business owners to utilize or get this funding, is it gonna get easier if somebody else manages it for us? Or should we look at what else we can offer for those that?
I think it's both. I think we need to look at the program itself and figure out, is it actually serving the needs? And maybe tinkering that. But then I think also GCDC is way more set up for a program like that. They're constantly working with banks and small businesses and are, like I said, like kind of the front line on that than we are. I only talk to businesses like when they're in trouble or, like when they're just coming to New Glarus for the first time, right? Which maybe that's not me and I should be reaching out to businesses more, but
No, I'm just saying it all.
there's a lot.
What I'm saying is, can we lessen the hoops they have to jump through so people actually can utilize this?
I think that's definitely.
Well, and I think that's where Green County could really provide us that expertise.
Yeah.
Because we're obviously, deal with this every single day, like they do. The facade improvement grant, even though it's easier, is also, not to jump ahead, but is also a program that's severely underutilized. And it's gotten more traction in the last few years than it had, I think, prior. But when I see businesses downtown, we're so fortunate to have such a beautiful downtown and business owners really take pride in that. And there's a few businesses that recently did things and I'm like, no, we wouldn't give any money for this. So I think, it's something that we always share with when we find out a new business is coming in. But yeah, maybe there's other ways that we can push that out.
So if there's a new business coming into town or someone's planning on starting a business, it's not a bad idea to send them to you.
Yeah, usually I feel like a good amount of the new business owners coming to town call us.
Yeah, and then I connect them with the chamber, I connect them with GCDC.
Okay, and so the facade grant, so technically that is village money that they're getting?
TID.
So explain where that money would go otherwise.
So if we didn't have the TID, we wouldn't have the money there.
Okay.
Because the money would just be going to the taxing jurisdictions. So the TID.
It would just sit in the TID.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would it be used for other than that?
But you can use TID money for a variety of
Improvements
things.
of things in the TID. So for example, the New Glarus Hotel project is a perfect example of what we're using TID funds for.
Okay, so if someone was gonna complain about the facade program and what the people are using the money for, it's not doing anything harmful to use the money for whatever a business owner wants to use it for. So like if someone's complaining, hey, they're using this only for their own benefit of like new doors and windows instead of like making the outside look a certain way, is that an actual complaint?
So we actually had a discussion of this. We had CDA right before this meeting and we had a discussion because we've had 2 applications now that applied for windows. And the conversation was, well, are windows really improving the aesthetic versus painting, or awnings or things like that? So the CDA is going to look at the next meeting, maybe tweaking language and maybe only giving 50% of the grant towards windows. And then the other 50 has to go towards more aesthetically improvements.
That actually makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, there's room to make tweaks so that it's really improving the downtown appearance and not just helping one business owner.
Hey, Jamie, that business that did the facade thing and you didn't like what they did that get changed? It's the same? So it's done? So there wasn't like a step of it, they're actually finished and they didn't do a good job?
We haven't received any finishing documents.
Direct button, here we go. He called me today.
It's
though.
dark. Will you even know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Well, we've all talked.
Oh.
Can we add something to goal 3? First, I want to say that I love that you put in the word excellent village staff for goal 3. So good job on that.
We don't want anybody that's not
But I would love to consider or to continue the conversations that we started this year, right sizing salaries. And it's just going to be an incremental conversation that we have for a long time, but I think it's important to have it as a goal.
Yeah.
Because we did some great work around that this year, but there's lots.
What's the new cover called? Can I have the old one?
You can bid on it.
Focus, Jesse.
Like $1?
The last one was the towable and we still got almost $5,000.
Ugh.
Hey, are there
Pretty even changed the oil in it.
This one's the president of the appointment.
We're not.
We wouldn't be lost, but
I'm
yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of.
We should put the fire truck on eBay. We can get more than 25 grand for a fire truck, don't you think?
I mean, it'll probably go to that auction house. If I don't.
Wisconsin surplus?
Yeah.
We're selling a tractor out there right now.
We can
We
autograph
just
it.
sold a utility truck.
That'll add value.
Hey, Lon, did you have anything You want to finish this page or
Uh,
what are you doing?
any other questions or add additions to the goals?
The only other thing I wanted to add about TID money is it has to be money spent that helps generate revenue within that TID too. So it can't, like Lauren said, the hotel's a perfect example because that is going to generate revenue in that area. But it can't be a project that isn't going to make money for the TID as a whole.
So it couldn't just be a pretty mural.
Exactly. Well,
So downtown streetscape improvements, for example, are eligible.
Yep.
It creates
Which,
increased tax increment, not revenue, right?
Yeah,
well, yeah, but
It's supposed to increase the value of the building.
right. I mean, yeah, which,
Yeah.
yeah, that goes through, I mean, right, like the breweries, because we've talked about it, going to be closing next year, and that is an extremely successful TID, one of the most successful in the state, and it's because that increment, you know, and the value and what they were able to do with what they started with to now has grown so much. So not only is it what's left gonna benefit, but also when it goes back on the roll, it's gonna benefit all 4 taxing jurisdictions, even though the village was the one that took the risk.
Okay, with the goals thing, there are 3 things that I want to mention. One would be to attack the FFA pond thing, to see if we can get that solved. Or at least heading in the right direction. There's not a bunch of old dudes eyeballing me all the time. And then,
Sounds like a first one, probably.
number 2, does anyone follow all the power lines and check to make sure there's not trees like on them?
Yes, I know there's been discussions.
Okay, one of them is at my house, and I've talked to those guys.
Is the tree on your property?
It's on the property next to me. What do you ask?
Well, because if the tree is on like the personal property, then it's their responsibility to manage the tree.
If it's on a power line?
Yeah, I think it's gotta be clear to power.
Yeah.
No. A homeowner can't go to a power line and cut a tree branch off.
I think we have to clear it from the power.
Right,
Oh,
and then they cut it. So that's
But I
one.
guess what I'm saying is if the tree like fell on the power line,
Yeah,
that would be.
that's different. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about something that's got branches hanging on it right now. You have to do that? I thought it was
The utilities.
Utilities.
I've been in conversation with folks.
Okay, so there's a bunch of properties that have, and it's a pain in the ass to have to like call and then nobody shows up. So anyway, that was it. I thought there's 3 things. Maybe
Is it in your backyard?
it's like if you go up my driveway, it's not right outside, you know? And the owner's of that house is changed.
What's the logic for 7-year capital
That's gonna be
improvement rather than 5?
Oh, yeah, so,
Seems like that's more.
yes.
Okay, well, we can talk about that later.
So, yeah, so we currently have a 5-year CIP. I put a 7-year, because we have a lot of projects planned in this 5-year. And I want you all to know how that's gonna impact the next year. Yeah, 2 years. Some communities even have 10-year CIP. I think that's a little overkill, but I do think it's beneficial to look at even more than 5 years because with a ton of projects happening in 2026, we're gonna have very limited borrowing later in the later years. And so I just want us to start thinking about that and kind of
Yeah, because
strategizing.
you always
So,
change them anyway.
and we have plenty of projects to add into those.
Well, it's helpful for staff to, especially like finance stuff, to know like what's coming down the pike, what to expect, what we need to be looking for.
Yeah, and when you're gonna get close to the debt
Right.
limit.
Right.
Yeah, it is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The only other thing I'll point out is I did include developing an annual resident survey to gather feedback. I would love thoughts on that.
So we get a 15% reply.
Yeah, don't you already?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
We'd love some positive.
yeah, I feel like, so we do the annual Parks and Rec survey, and I feel like it is beneficial, like I get good feedback from that, and so I would love to maybe expand that to other village services. I don't know what that looks like, and if people have ideas on what that looks like, I don't want a super long survey. I want it to be accessible to all age demographics, so I don't know what that looks like yet, but if you have feedback on that.
Sure, I mean, I think that we just have to be very strategic in what you ask and the way you.
Didn't the chamber do a survey? Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were.
I think that was, well, so we did the one you're thinking of we did 2 separate ones, like 2 or 3 years ago, we did one that was just for businesses. And
Okay.
it asked like, how much do you pay for rent, or do you
Yeah,
own,
yeah.
or how safe do you feel downtown at night? And like, it was more business focused.
Yep.
And then the more recent one, we did surveys for businesses, a different survey for residents, and a different survey for visitors.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was really interesting. But yeah, so you'll get lots of like, there should be a gazebo built for Snowy the Owl. And they'll feel really strongly about that and they'll ignore all of the questions that you're asking just to, so like you said, be really strategic about what you're asking and how much rope you give them.
Well, I do feel like with the Park and Rec survey, I feel like staff has had ideas about things, but we're like, oh, I don't know if that'll go over well. And then we get these survey results and like, there's a few different spots where people are like, you need to do this. And it's literally exactly what we were talking about. So having that like reconfirming, notion to do it, makes it easier to do it, I think.
I think with the two strong childcare advocate owners we have in the community, we should discuss local subsidizing of childcare. And I mean, I would focus it on reducing the cost to the parents. That's the first part, rather than trying to increase salaries for the workers. I think you gotta kind of pick and choose what's most important. But if you pick up the cost for parents, I'm just thinking brainstorming it.
Yeah. I mean, that
But
would be
Laura Eicher's mother's in a community where the community does subsidize childcare, so I've got to talk with Laura.
Yeah, I'm curious how they fund that.
Usually
Yeah,
it's,
exactly.
it's businesses that
Right.
take in that. And, if
Yeah.
you've got Colony Brands punching $2 million into it, that's undoable, but I don't think Jack thinks our major employers. But yeah, it would be interesting to learn more about it.
I mean, it is advantageous for a big business to have less expensive childcare, obviously, but it's also more advantageous to the community of drawing more young people to the community.
And even the exploratory aspect of it might show you something that you didn't know that can help in the future anyway.
Anyway, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Is that all on the goals? It is,
Nice job on the goals and for the cemetery too, all the work you've done on cemetery lawn. Elsie, all the calculations you make for paying everything. Thank you.
Item 6, library, consideration discussion library project update. Amy?
So I don't have too much, just a reminder that Thursday is our community engagement evening from 5 to 7 in the community room. If you come, you can meet OPN architects, see their design. Also Friday, we hired CMA, CG Schmidt, so they will be there as well to answer any questions. And then one other final note, we are looking at getting shelving from Sun Prairie Library. They're doing a major renovation and should have shelving available for free in June of 2025. So if anybody knows of any place that we can store shelving for free, you can reach out to me.
June.
Yeah.
Maybe for elections, but not full elections. But they're just there for February.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Jeff, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just gonna pass, you guys along.
The handcuffs?
Is it not?
Tasers for everybody. We got extra.
What? It's got my name on it?
Wow.
Ordered them for the officers this year for Christmas, but there's some donation money, Mr. Rogers. Jamie's.
Thank you, Jeff.
Oh,
Thank you.
that's awesome.
Peggy's not here.
I'll take hers.
You want for each hand.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
I like presents.
I gotta do one. It's just that they don't let me.
I should be the top of the list, but we'll talk about that. Three, retain excellent employees.
Well, thanks, Jeff.
Thanks very much.
Anything else on the board?
The only other thing I want to add is we are going to have a February election. There's probably gonna be only one ballot on the race, so those of you that are up for reelection for the spring, you will be on this ballot. But there will be a February election, and we'll be talking about moving at board meeting the next day.
So
that's
the next board meeting then.
Ideally, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.